All right, well, we are back from our short break. Woo! And I got me some goldfish, symbolic, because this whole thing is about ships. I'm not going to eat in the microphone because that's rude. All right, so you guys have breached the Isle. You're now in this wind-filled space. It's warm sometimes, cold other times, but for the most part, it's pretty habitable. You guys walk around wearing long sleeves that are unbuttoned for the most part because it can be really hot, and then it gets cold and you have to kind of cover up. So you got to be prepared for that. The ship is generally heated on the inside all the time because of the stoves, because of the way it's designed. It's always hot. Very rarely will the doors be left open to cool off the inside of the boat, because if the temperature drops to ridiculously stupid cold, and you'd just die if you didn't get to a coat. So that's one of the reasons. That, and also several of the crew members need it to be warm for them to function normally. Those two members are Doc and Nibley. You heard about them earlier. They are the Uterans. They like warm things, and coldness tends to make them kind of go to sleep. And maybe we'll get a chance to see some of that in action at some point in time. But in the meantime, you guys have cleared the breach, and the ship is starting to cruise a little bit. And as the ship drifts away from the Isle, the sails are being manipulated by you guys, the crewmen, to get ready to go. And let's see, your first shift, a breach is all shifts, and so this was done probably in the morning of the next day. Instead of losing 2 whole days, it took an entire day to get to. And so you guys are, I'm going to use air quote fingers, still on course to catch up to them, the other little boat. And so first shift is not on duty right now. It's second shift, or about to be third shift. And what do you guys want to do?
What kind of drinks are there on the ship? Just water?
No, God, no. Actually, water is one of those things they rarely carry. For the most part, you drink like rum is a good antiseptic material to have. Juices are important. So like they'll carry fruit with them. Since you're going out into the void, water is definitely hard to get a hold of. There are barrels of water on board that are just kept for boiling and sometimes meant for drinking. For the most part, though, if you're feeling kind of parched, you can go for one of the barrels.
Yeah.
Tea and coffee. That's the main go-to for drinks.
Tea. Thomas is gonna get. Is the captain around, or is he busy? I would imagine Thomas is dreading that conversation, so he's attempting to avoid him at all costs.
You don't know where he's at. Do you want to go look for him?
No, I think he'll just go about his daily business, and if he sees the captain, he'll just kind of like turn the other way, pivot. But I think after when, we're all done off the hill, invite his partner and Bassianus to a cup of tea. If they're both willing. Or you can get whatever. I mean, you guys can get smashed if you want to.
So you're inviting who?
Kodra and Bassianus.
Oh, to get some tea.
Yeah.
John, you're muted.
My bad, everyone. Yeah, I mean, tea's not my style. I'll have some coffee though.
Okay. I'm sure Cookie will gladly whip up something. So you guys head toward. Do you have tea making? Tea brewing devices. So like if you're so in the ship you want to brew some tea. Your options are to go to the kitchen and get Cookie to do it, or you need to find like a a piece of metal or stone, and then you pile on top of that piece of metal or stone some warming stones, and then so they'll have like it's going to be the first one I remember thinking about it's like a wooden bowl, it's like a stone bowl that has a lid, and the lid has a hole in it, and so you fill the bowl up with charcoal, warming stones, and you set fire to it, and then you close it. That keeps everything on the inside because you're in the void. Things float. There's air to breathe, by the way, plenty of air. You can float off the ship. If you float off the ship, you're not going to die from suffocation. You're going to die from starvation, and dehydration, or being eaten.
But like stuff doesn't float out of cups, right?
Yeah, no, you put everything in a flask. You don't have
okay.
a cup of tea. You have a flask of tea, and you pop it and you drink from it. When you guys are on Isle, you can drink from cups if you really want to. So a flask is your partner.
Okay. So I've got a dwarven percolator that's got like a little chamber for the warming stones that heats the water, that bubbles it up, and then it falls back down the percolator into a flask that attaches to the end of it. So it's like a
whole contained device.
Brewer, yeah.
So I assume that you've either filtered some warming stones from the ship, or you've purchased some of your own.
Yeah, well, so warming stones, is that something that's reusable, or is that a consumable item?
So a warming stone is a rock. We'll give an example. This D20 is a warming stone. You can put it in your hand, and on average it's going to be about 70 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. You're like, oh, hey, this is kind of warm. It's always going to be warm. It won't boil water, though. If you add heat to it, its temperature goes up, and you don't know. Maybe there's some wizard out there or some smart person who's figured out how hot they get. But you can put them into a coal fire, and they will actually make more heat than is actually in the fire. And so they retain heat for longer periods of time. They never burn out. They're always there. And so for Thomas, on the other hand, he knows that warming stones have a lot of fire magic in them. And so in the Shattered Isles, they don't use bat guano for fireballs. They use powdered warming stone for their fireball spells. You can use bat guano if you want to be nasty, but who wants to do that?
That's peasants' magic.
Yeah, I feel
exactly.
Like Thomas would, as like, I imagine you pull this out to heat this thing up. I imagine Thomas is like nerding out and explaining how they work.
And I'm like, no, I don't understand how they put them in the fire, they get hot, and then you put them in the kettle, and then.
Yeah, but they're imbued with this magic, and it heats up, and this magic swells into it. It's like, if you've ever, well, I mean, you don't know, but it's like casting something. It's inside it, and he'll like go on and on and on about it.
Yeah, Kodrug just kind of nods while you're talking, because it's like, yeah, you're talking about magic. I don't get it.
It like doesn't go in one ear and out the other. Like, yeah, whatever you say.
Yep. That's super interesting. Oh wow. I had no idea, and like ultimately, none of this information is being listened to. Sorry, Thomas.
I imagine that you like tune him out one time, and you come back, and he's talking about something else, like completely something else.
You're waiting for me to answer a question.
Yeah, and you're like, what? And he's like, I asked you to do. What do you think of chicken or steak? Like, it's completely out of left field. Like, or are you a vegetarian? I didn't mean to, offend.
So, Bassianus will point at, what is this thing and he taps your coffee maker.
It is a special secret technology that we dwarves use to keep us awake longer. No, it's just a coffee brewer, and I slap his back in.
He shrugs. I have never seen one like this. It's all one piece. And he will talk about a serving tray on top of a pot with a kettle on top of another thing. That then he talks about like these series of pots and pans that stack up to do the exact same thing that where he comes from, that his family had.
Well, if your family had more dwarven blood, they would have more things like this.
Thomas, for a moment, looks between the two and imagines a hybrid of the two and thinking of that race. And just imagining the stock Keshin. And he just kind of back and forth and chuckles to himself a bit.
If we ever come across an iron home, we'll find you one like this.
It is very handy.
Yes, it is.
Is there... I know you just went over the process of making tea, but I'm going to make tea. And I'd imagine Thomas is looking around for a kettle. So he's basically like, well, I come from a noble family, and we use things called kettles, dear sir. And he's like looking through boxes.
You mean your servants use kettles?
I didn't use servants.
Thank you, Oz, for that wonderful bits.
Yeah, Thomas is like opening up things. And he goes, no, I didn't use the servants. My family used the servants. I, have limbs. I like to actually use them.
I see. So, I heard you're gonna go talk to the captain about your finger wiggling.
If the captain decides to hunt me down and talk to me about it, then yes. I would rather avoid that conversation entirely. It's not something that I like to discuss. After all, it should be nothing to, snivel at. Magic is dangerous, and yet I think it would be appropriate if it was received as normal. How many people do you see in town that are magicians or mages that are practically bowed at and have people following them? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I could certainly count the number that didn't expect that treatment on fewer fingers than the ones that do. Yeah. Let's see. 1. Oh, that's you, Thomas.
He kind of gives you this look and he goes, I don't know whether that should offend me or that's a compliment. I'm taking it as a compliment, though. That's like that.
All right, so Cookie will come in and see you guys as hanging around the mess hall and says, if you've got free time, you can do some dishes. And she continues walking through.
Thomas immediately just goes, not me, not it. And he stands up. I made this whole vessel move.
I am the wind. I have done my work.
She stops in mid-stride of all the laughter. Well, then fine. If you're the wind, you can also be the water in the sink.
Yeah, not after 8 hours. I'm tired.
She brushes you off and then heads into the kitchen to start prepping for the dinner meals.
I mean, we could knock this out together. You could wash, I could dry, other vice versa.
Yeah, or we could slip out of here with our beverages and.
Thomas kind of looks around and he goes, "Let's go, let's go, let's go!" Gets low to the ground.
Oh right.
Yeah, crouch down and sneak out.
Yeah. Is there anybody walking past us? Because I would immediately just push them towards the kitchen,
Dimitri, one of the riggers.
Yeah,
a rigger from second shift.
Yeah, I'll try putting it on him.
Okay.
As we walk out.
Yeah, as you leave, you hear Cookie say, "What? Oh, anyway, never mind. Dimitri, get in here. Come wash these dishes."
And I'll offer a high five to Coach Rock as we're leaving.
All right. Probably sometime later that evening. Not sure the rest of your events, but during dinner, the bosun comes to you. She's not with the captain. She's not amongst the rest of the officers eating. She comes down into the crew's quarters, crew's kitchen with you guys, and she walks over and she gives a tap onto your shoulder, and then makes efforts. Can you move over so I can sit down?
I'll they can sit between the two of us.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the bosun sits down and she goes, tonight, after dinner, when your shift begins, I want you to go down into the lower decks and check on that cat that's been down there for the last few days. Start doing a head count of how many rats it's killed. I also want to see if you can figure out if any have been killed, have come up missing. And she looks down at her soup and then looks to you. I just want to make sure that they're getting killed, they're being eaten by that creature and not left to find its way anywhere else. And she looks to her soup, looks to you guys. Looks to you mostly because you're about counting and keeping track of things. As she fishes out a piece of delicious-looking red meat in her soup.
I'll make a list. Thomas pulls out one of his bear journals.
So she kind of plays with it for a minute. And I was eating and it was so delicious, but Cookie's being vague about where the meat came from.
I mean, but Cookie's always vague about where the meat comes from.
This is why I don't eat anything that Cookie makes.
And she nods.
I should be starving.
She'll nod and say, but not to the captain. She's just trying to stretch rations, and I think it's deplorable too. Rodent. Anyways, go down and check on that cat.
I bet it can't be healthy either. Is there a roll that any of us could make to see what the effects are of eating this? If it has some sort of illness that could be tied to it?
Well, you could do a detect poison. I don't think you have a detect disease. And Cassie makes a good point. If it tastes good, does it matter? Oh, wait, it should sound more like this. If it tastes good, what does it matter?
It matters, Cookie, alright? It matters to me. Is there hold on, do I have knowledge?
If you have an alchemist kit and you have alchemy, you can do some tests. If you have detect poison as a spell, you could do that as well. Otherwise, there's the highly educated doctor you could go see.
Yeah, I think on his downtime then. I mean, Thomas isn't the one that's going to eat this wonderful meal. So he's just more concerned about people that he has to stay with on the ship. So.
Okay.
But yeah, I think we're ready. Let's head down and...
Yeah, the bosun's going to ask you to take care of that kind of nonchalantly. If you see anything that indicates that, something's made its way up to the kitchen, something like that, do some heads up. Figure out if that cat's doing its job. And so she will leave you at that.
Yeah, I'm going to push my bowl of potential rat stew out of the way and stuff some bread in my pocket. You can't put rat in bread. So
no, you can't.
I mean, you could try. Certainly try.
Rat bone flour.
Ooh, delicious.
And Cassie's right though. You could go see the doctor. The doctor knows things.
I think he'll suggest let's go see the doctor first. If there is anything left that is alive and the cat's not taking care of it, I do not want to be killing or fighting those things because I have no idea what they're gonna do or what they could cause me.
Yeah. I mean, if they've got a disease, If they've got a disease and they bite you and you contract the disease, you have no cleric to run to on the ship to have them remove it.
Yeah.
You do have the doctor, though, and he might have things that will help.
Yeah.
All right.
So I guess let's go get an idea what we're up against and then see how many rats our champion has killed.
Okay.
What did you name the cat?
Gosh, I hope I wrote it down.
I thought it was like Fluffy or something like that. Like something
Kitty McKitterson.
Not that it would be.
Yeah.
Something, yeah.
Meow meow fluffy butt.
Yeah. Oh, please just keep it meow meow fluffy butt.
Official.
You head down to the second deck, which is also on the gun deck, and Bobo Fluffy. Bobo Fluffy.
Yeah, it was Bobo Fluffy.
You move down to the second deck, which is the gun deck. All the gun sides are currently closed up right now. The guns, the few of them that are on ship, total of 6, 3 heavies and 3 lights, sit quietly off to one side. A gnarled-looking older man is currently eating some gruel and leaning up against some barrels of explosives as he looks out one of the holes as you pass by. You head down the small corridor that's near the back of the ship. There are several rooms, one of which is the guest room that Bastianus has taken residence in, and also he shares it with you. He doesn't really have too much going on back there, but it's right next to the doctor's office. You head up to the door that says doctor on it. It's closed.
I'll knock.
Okay, there's no answer.
Light. Sound effects.
There is a sign that says in on the door, but you knock and there's no answer.
Thomas isn't one to barge in, and this isn't really an emergency, so Thomas will just kind of look at Kotrug and shrug. We tried.
So Kotrug will kind of lean past Thomas towards the door and just like casually start pushing the door in to see if it's like latched or anything.
Nope, it opens.
Yep. I just do you do the whole thing like, oh no, it's opening, and Thomas is like, stop it.
It's like, oh gosh, I think it's locked. I don't know. Oh, there we go. Broke the lock.
All right. So the door slides open and you're looking into a small room. This office has no chairs, but it does have a bed where it has straps on it. So you can be strapped down in so you don't float away. Because right now you guys are kind of floating, holding on to things and moving around the ship. And you can stop and put your feet on the ground if you so wanted to, but you're just going to kind of float. So you're like in outer space. The door's floated, you open it up. So if you can think about the shelving in here is pouches and little closed cabinets and drawers. Nothing is open to the room in here because there's lots of little things that can be floating about. Pouches of things strapped down to tabletops and whatnot. In the far corner of the room, there's a large, bright, greenish yellow, car paste covered knot of a form. As the door opens up, 2 large limbs begin to roll out of the form and plant themselves into the ground. The rest of the form twists in the other direction. As you can see, the doctor must have been asleep. And when he sleeps, he curls himself up into a ball the size of a 1-ton boulder, And so he begins uncurling himself. If you can imagine taking a locust and a cockroach and combining the two of them and then giving the large feathery-like whip-like antennas, would be a kind of a good description. And so his flexible back, he stands up and he stretches for a minute. He makes clicking and popping sounds as he moves, partially with his mouth and in his exoskeleton. And from where he's at, across the other side of this, 15-foot room, he takes one step and reaches over and pushes the door the rest of the way, just gingerly because his arms can reach that far. His extra pair of arms then come out from behind his back. His fingers stretch for just a moment and kind of hold him to the ground. He has a pair of legs like you do. He has a pair of arms like you do. But he has an extra pair of appendages that come out of the middle of his back that he can do a crazy bunch of things with. they end in these, where you and I would have fingers on our hands and toes on our feet. He has 3 fingers and a thumb and 3 toes on his feet and like this back toe. And then on these other arms, he has these weird pads, long, wrappy-like fingers, and that's, the, like, utility appendages. Finally, the doctor has, as per his profession, a specialized finger. One of his fingers on his left and right hand are large scythes that he can use to do surgery with, such as amputations or opening a wound to remove an arrow or something worse. And he has done surgeries. As he stands near the door looking at you, his antennas reach out and they kind of flitter for a moment, and dust from these antennas drift across the room. And in your head, you hear his voice say to you, "Welcome."
Hi, Doc. We didn't mean to disturb you.
His face splits open and makes some chittering noises, and and then in your head you hear him say, "Oh, I was just sleeping."
Thomas had some really important questions he wanted to ask you.
The doctor takes another step and he moves in such a very slinky way to consume the rest of the hallway where you're currently standing at. He has a special ability that allows him to end his movement in the square with a companion and take any blows that they might take. So he's like, because he's a part roach, he can fit anywhere he needs to, kind of scenario.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, Thomas will watch this happen and just go, yeah, cat situation. And I was curious, Jim, for subscribing again.
Thank you, Jim. That was very nice of you.
And he'll we're going down there, and those rats are dangerous. I would assume if there's anything else that's alive that the cat hasn't killed, I wanted to know if they carry anything or what they should prepare for.
Oh, let me get my kit. And one of his utility arms reach into the room and pull a bag and drag it out and kind of begin latching it on. Please, show me.
The rats?
Yes.
His
arm reaches in and grabs another bag, pulls it out. This is my symptom kit. If we can't identify it, we can at least try to mimic it.
Well, we could bring you one. I don't have any spare rats on me at the moment. But we're headed down there anyway, so... do you have like an extra jar I could use to trap this thing? Because we just have traps that, kill them, instead of you being able to experiment.
No, I don't have jars. I have jars filled with leeches that I feed, but I do not have jars. Oh, I might, if all my leeches have died, because I haven't fed them in a while. You can use that jar. And then he'll lean back in, kind of slinky-like, as he opens up one of his cabinets, pulls it out, and there's a jar with about 5 or 6 leeches in it. As you can see the blackness moving around, he goes, "No, they're still alive, but they're probably hungry. Could you help me with that?" They just drink a little bit of blood.
Oh, I think that Larry was saying that he was really excited to help you feed your leeches.
Larry always runs.
Yeah, blood makes me squeamish. So, I'll get you a rat. How about that?
That'll be great. Then we can test and see if it gives a disease to the leeches.
Perfect.
Here's a jar filled with leeches. You can put it in. It's actually got like 5 leeches in it, so he's going to hand you a jar with leeches in it.
Here, I'll use my pencil jar as the prop. I'll just hold it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll just be like, "Oh, thank you." I'll make sure that I will capture one.
You don't need me to go with you.
If you so wish to, you can. Obviously, you're a very busy man.
I was sleeping. I will go back to sleeping if you don't need me.
Yeah, no, we'll wake you when we have the rat.
Okay. He goes, oh, I have a thought. This will help you. And then he opens his mandibles for a moment, and his neck starts making like a jerking motion. And then it jerks again, and it jerks a third time, and a large globule of amber-like material extrudes from his mouth and into one of his hands, and it pounds down like a big old nasty half-melted gummy bear. And he kind of plays with it for a moment. He starts playing with it for a moment, and then he hands it over to you. This can help capture one alive. And he has to constantly kind of like move with it like it's silly putty. And so he's trying to hand you this globule of like orangey colored vomit.
So I pull out like a handkerchief and like try to like use it as a bowl to like catch the
it catches
amber mucus.
Yeah.
And tie it up a little bit so it's.
The doctor will slide back in to go finish his nap. You guys now have a jar of leeches and some of his amber spit stuff. You guys are good.
Yes! I don't know to be excited about that. I should put that on my items list. Jar of leeches.
Yeah, I'm gonna write down handkerchief full of amber uterine vomit.
Oh man.
So like I don't think I've ever been this close to whatever this substance is. So I'm curious. I'm gonna like smell it.
Oh, it's nasty. It smells like vomit.
Taste it. Oh, never mind. I'm not gonna taste it.
Thomas is gonna. There's detect magic in this game, right?
Yes, there's zeroth level spell. Everybody. No, it's not a zeroth level spell. It's a spellcrafting check. In this game, you make a spellcrafting roll to start detecting magic around you, because as a spellcaster, you learn to become innate with the ways of magic that surrounds you. You can take a 10 or a 20. You don't have to actually roll.
Yeah, I was going to say, I honestly don't think I have anything in... Oh, I do.
Yeah. You should have something in...
Yeah, I was like, I think I was thinking of use magic device, which I have nothing in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take 10 or 20 to really determine what this is and what magical components is about it, because I feel like that would pique Thomas's interest.
Very cool. All right. Yeah, this none of the stuff that he's giving you is magical, but it's very useful.